So there's this video of Conservative Party of Canada leader Pierre Poilievre taking the mic on a WestJet flight to Calgary. Maybe you've seen it.
Hello, everyone. This is Pierre Poilievre. Happy to join you for a wonderful WestJet flight back to my hometown of Calgary.
So that's the beginning of a 1-minute video he posted himself. Nothing special, seemingly small. But the reaction has kind of been out of control.
Who's ready for a home you can afford? Who's ready for some common sense?
Lots of responses on X, formerly Twitter, polling for the People's Prime Minister, cheering on Captain Canada. But then I start seeing the boycott WestJet hashtag pop up. Jan Arden is mad all of a sudden, and the company and its union start falling over each other, demanding apologies, giving explanations, and then the most recent fuel thrown on the fire.
People on the plane were just delighted with my common sense remarks. I think that the union should apologize for trying to silence freedom of speech.
And there's gotta be people out there who are kind of scratching their heads wondering, how did a 1-minute video on social media turn into all of that? Well, let me explain.
Since your captain warning, a little bit of turbulence, but it will only last about 2 years, in which Chang will have a totally new crew and pilot in charge of the plane.
So at first glance, the passengers actually don't seem to mind, right? This impromptu political message brought to you by the Conservative Party of Canada. But that's because most people on this flight are conservatives.
And the first thing on my to-do list is to axe the tax to bring home lower prices. Axe the tax.
The party had just wrapped up its policy convention in Quebec City. That was on a Saturday. On Sunday, there were so many people leaving Quebec City back for Calgary that WestJet specifically added this flight to the schedule. And according to a WestJet spokesperson, this was a unique occasion and individual. So Pierre Poilievre was allowed to greet delegates as they got on board, and the CEO of WestJet says that's allowed. But this was not a political endorsement, nor should it be interpreted as such. We are nonpartisan by nature and will revisit our policy on this.
Corporate reputation is very important, the reputation of the company. And so, and they realize they're lightning rods for criticism by regulators, by media, by professors, by consumers. And so they try to avoid obvious minefields.
Yeah, so you know, the important thing about what happened is that this wasn't a private chartered flight. It was a public commercial one. So yes, the CEO says it was largely conservative delegates on board. But if you were one of the few who was not, would it seem to you that the company flying the plane that you're on leans conservative? And does that matter to you? You know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But once the video got out, even people who weren't on the plane were ticked off. A PA system on a plane is for the flight crew, full stop, not a political soapbox for social media. Yes, that's Jan Arden posting on X, and she also says she and WestJet will never be doing business again. There's since been a lot of back and forth over who exactly allowed Pierre Poilievre to make his speech over the PA system. You know, initially, most people thought it must be the cabin crew who gave him the mic, but the union put out a statement. The cabin crew had no input into this decision. It goes on, giving Mr. Poilievre a platform showed bad judgment by WestJet. Mr. Poilievre showed bad judgment taking that opportunity. It is the cabin crew who deal with passenger complaints. WestJet management and Mr. Poilievre should not have put them in that position. The union wants an apology from both the company and Pierre Poilievre, who, by the way, doesn't see anything worth apologizing for.
The crew invited me to give a speech, and they did that multiple times. And I think it was because people who work on airplanes, people who work in restaurants, people who work building things, love my message.
Your home, my home, our home, let's bring it home.
So, back to the original question. What's the big deal?
I think it'll be blow over by the end of today, because again, most people have much bigger concerns on their plate. Shakespeare has said it much more profoundly. This is much ado about nothing.
So, I'm actually kind of surprised how much oxygen this story had this week. Probably said something about the state of politics today. And yes, I am fully aware of the great irony of me explaining what happened while simultaneously wondering out loud how this came to be such a thing. But there you have it. No one died, no laws were broken, everything's gonna be fine. Maybe the WestJet policy will change, who knows? But before it does, if it does, wouldn't it be interesting if, for science and research purposes only, some other federal party leader tried to do the same thing? Now, you know what, on second thought, let's just hope that doesn't actually happen.